Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Visoki here again. We still don't have a name for this thing. This is our Shazam movie review spoilers. Yeah, so at the top, just gonna say this: if you have not seen Shazam, if you've not seen it like completely, if you didn't just see like I don't know clips online or something that somehow someone got, which I don't understand how they would, but if you just if you're just coming here from the trailer and you're just trying to decide if you want to watch it, this is not the review for you because we're gonna spoil everything.
Yeah,
Probably
go
not.
watch the movie. Don't even second guess yourself. Go watch it.
Yeah, that's what we're going to tell you in this review. if you're on the fence, get off that fence right now. It's probably pretty high and dangerous. But on top of that, go see the movie after you get off the fence. So, yeah. My bad jokes
down
aside.
that fence and go get some
peacefully climb down.
Bucket of popcorn.
Honestly, I just got a small popcorn because it was just me. But honestly, this was one of my favorite theater experiences of all time. Just in general, like even though I was by myself, it was like me in the top row with one other guy who had also clearly just didn't want to be around anybody else. Oh, wow, I said a lot of words in a short space there. Anyway, he didn't want to be around anybody else too, obviously, and I get that vibe so much that we talked for like 2 minutes before the movie, never said a word to each other for the rest of the time. We respected each other's privacy, and I get that.
Way it goes, brother.
All right. Anyway, yeah, let's get into this. So, just start us off, Charlie, with your overall thoughts of the movie. We're gonna do scores like we did with Captain Marvel. Yes. Hopefully, I'll remember to do it before you have to remind me. But I never know.
Hey, we'll work it out. We're here for remind each other.
We'll work it out. But go ahead.
Yeah, man. I went in there with high expectations. I was excited for this movie, and honestly, I thought it hit those expectations and even exceeded them. I was laughing my tail off this entire movie, and I mean there was.
This show's an accurate way to say it. Yeah, I mean, it's not everyone would say it that way, but
as soon as Billy Batson becomes, Shazam, the movie it gets this.
I like that they played that scene kind of differently than they did in the trailer too. In the trailer, they make it seem like they give it away. They really don't. They change that scene a little bit in the trailer so that it doesn't. They cut it a little faster so it doesn't go together. And that scene's actually really. I don't mean to cut you off in the middle of your overall.
Oh no, you're good.
That scene's actually really great for explaining what kind of person. Truthfully, Billy is, and this is something I wanted to hit on just really quickly, is one of the through lines of this movie is
the beginning.
The thing that well, okay, that's actually another thing. I'll get to that in a second. This is something that popped into my head. I went out really quickly, but so there's this in that scene, you kind of see how reluctant Billy is, and he kind of admits to Shazam, the wizard Shazam form, and I can't pronounce the actor's name. I'm seriously apologize for that. I just don't want to butcher it. And who is also in Guardians and Aquaman. And he just does a great job as these one-off characters that probably won't be back for most of the time, But it's just great. Like everything. Spoilers for Aquaman and Guardians. Really quickly, if you haven't seen those, go see them. Go rent them or whatever. But he dies in every appearance. And anyone that knows the Shazam lore, that's not a spoiler. Shazam has to pass on his powers at some point. That might have been something that they added in. Like they may have made it a little more urgent. I think in a couple of different times before, he's fully Shazam and he's the only wizard left, I guess you would call it, of the council.
This is true.
I think he meets with the wizard a couple of more times. I don't think he actually just straight up is gone. In the same way that he kind of comes back to him and tells him something later, and you can kind of tell he's still talking to him directly, even though he's not just showing him things with there's something going on there. I have a feeling he's not really gone. But we'll get to that later. But you hit on something that I want to come back to really quickly, which was the opening scene of this film, which, to be honest, I thought was going to be that first misdirection where they show you the scene and you're not expecting this. And I was like, this doesn't look like the kid that they cast in this. Is this going to be one of those things where there's been more than one Shazam? That would be it.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I did not think it was
1970s. So I was like, okay, maybe this will be who he meets, because we hadn't seen what the wizard looks like. We just heard his voice. So I was like, maybe this will just be the old guy he meets. Maybe being Shazam ages you a lot faster or whatever. You know what I mean? But that's not what happens. So we do get the full introduction scene to get the feel for this movie. But there's a dark tone to this scene initially.
Dude, it kicks off way different than I thought it was going to.
So initially, we see someone get rejected. So it's not all peachy keen, not everybody gets selected. And it's actually a pretty brutal experience to be rejected by Shazam. So being rejected by Shazam, the I can't remember what the actual character's name was, like as their what would you call it, their birth name or whatever. But either way, This really annoying, really kind of weak kid that thinks he's going to be given all the answers he's been looking for to impress people, gets that ripped away from him in one moment by a guy who he's going to demonize in his own head because of that, which will come back to haunt Shazam later. Excuse me. But, and then just when you think this scene's going to end with like, oh, this is a comic book movie, we're not going to get this really dark scene where someone almost or does die. And then after they avoid one wreck, immediately another car comes in and slams and injures the father, like brutally, to a point where he's no longer able to walk, as we find out later in the movie. And it permanently ruins the relationship between the youngest kid and his brother and his father, which was already pretty shaky to begin with. But now it's permanently, they've completely gone away from him. The only thing they kind of keep him in the fold, kind of like aristocracies used to back in like England and other places with kings. They would keep people that weren't really, royal around, that were still a part of the family, because you're still royalty. They still don't want you getting like captured or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you're family.
His little 8-ball. You kind of see this 8-ball throughout the film, and it says, "Come find us."
So yeah. Okay, so yeah, immediately. So in this opening scene, the way you get tested by Shazam to this point is you get tempted by the 7 deadly sins that he's already, encased in this sort of the lair, we'll call it, because that's what they call it.
We got a lair.
We got a lair. But anyway, they have a lair, but their lair, which at the time was Shazam's lair, which I guess is still Shazam's lair, whatever, home
of the Shazam fam.
Yeah. So the Shazam lair, has the 7 deadly sins encased in it at the time. And actually, I really like the way they did this design. It's got that little like weird ball around the ball of energy or whatever. That's like their like, life forces or whatever. And then it forces them into these statues. So clearly Shazam spent like years working this out, how to keep them, encased. Or maybe it was something they figured out before the council was even gone. It's that expansive of a movie. Before I go through with the villain stuff continuously, I want to say, I just made the camera go wild. I just want to say something that this movie does insanely well, is explaining the lore of Shazam and his backstory and what the powers are and how
very
truthfully different he is from any other comic book character in DC. And the only one I can even compare to on a level of like power is Superman. We'll come back to that. Anyway, so that's a tease. But anyway, so the villain is made in this moment. This is your Killmonger's father being stabbed in the chest. Spoilers. Moment that creates this villain. You know what I mean? He now is set on a collision course with Billy Batson, who's going to eventually become Shazam, because he wants that power, and he knows he can't get it by taking it, because Shazam won't just give it up. He has to legitimately give it to somebody. He has to pass it on or whatever. And the coolest thing about Billy, in my opinion, is I don't think he's actually pure of heart. I think that's the thing. They show you him doing things that aren't good before you have him become what he is willing to do. And it's what will ultimately end up defeating the villain, is step up for people who aren't willing to fight for themselves. It's why Shazam's seeking spell found him right after he just got into the fight with the bullies. Because when Shazam saw that moment, because I assume he kind of has like an omniscient view of everything because of how powerful he was. Who knows? I mean, maybe the seeking spell just has really specific ways of finding people, but things it looks for. Because one of the biggest inspirations, I guess, for this movie was the movie Big, which I have not seen, but I want to see now, especially because I was having seen this one and liking it so much. And one of the things that I think is an influence of that is this sort of family story that is tied around kind of, the whole big thing, because of how much bullying goes on in this movie. The villain is essentially a kid that became a bully. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he really is.
And it just with way more superpowers than most bullies, Something they did that set up the stakes really well without seeming corny was the scene where they were like, only magic can hurt other magic, basically. So nothing on Earth, except maybe some other superheroes with, beyond powers, would be even able to touch him and hurt him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they set that up really well. So that first scene when they show Billy getting hurt in the fight, because obviously they're both using magic. Not only does it serve to show how much more experienced of a fighter the villain is over Billy and understanding how the magic works and stuff, because he's studied. Again, this is another thing they play into this villain character. He spent years and years and years, and they have this brilliant setup scene where I mean, it's not the best acted scene in the world, but where they have this scene where he's got some other people manipulated into finding this for him. And then eventually he learns how to do the magic without having to have the powers. And that's pretty crazy in and of itself, because when you see what he's doing later on in the movie, it makes you really concerned.
Dude ended up having a lot of power in him.
Yeah, despite being, it was one of those things where, because that catalyst moment happened where he felt powerless and felt like he was never literally going to be good enough, he made himself stronger than anyone despite the world, pretty much.
Yeah.
So he could get back at who he believed had oppressed him throughout his life. And Billy is this kid who has dealt with, if not as much, more in his life in terms of feeling not wanted and feeling like he'll never be good enough. Billy has a really sad moment in this movie where he realizes he will never be good enough. There's nothing he can do.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm talking the moment about halfway through the movie, I think it was, when he meets his mom.
Yeah, man. She's like, I saw you. It's like, oh.
It's such a crushing scene.
And it really kind of like brings him back. It's like that back to Jesus moment, right? That's what they call
it. No, it really is. Like when he realizes, I've been a fool. I should have seen in front of me the whole time. And you're screaming at him in your head the whole time. Billy, that's your family. They care about you clearly, or they wouldn't be coming after you. They wouldn't be looking for you,
Yep.
And they wouldn't care so much when you didn't tell them what you were,
And something you had talked about kind of before we went live was, you were like, it's kind of like a throwback to those movies that our parents loved. You know what I mean? It's like,
oh yeah, the 80s, 90s kind of movies that were really about family. That was the through line. And I feel like that's the through line in this, in a lot of this movie is that his family is literally what will, make him stronger,
Yeah.
Billy himself. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, there is so many scenes in this movie that just get you laughing your ass off. The whole thing about a lair, how it kept coming and coming, and then we finally get the closure of, oh my God, we got a lair. They go to a real estate place. I mean, like a waterfall. Zachary Levi in this role, man, and it's special, dude. This is something I want to see it definitely at least another time before Endgame here, and it's just like, that's a good ass movie.
If reviews for personal, if person to person conversation type reviews go a certain way with this, you may not be able to get a ticket soon.
Dude, I know, right?
I'm hoping, because one thing I will say that really disappointed me, and this is just probably where I live because it's not as big of a town, the theater wasn't full, and that really disappointed me.
Ours actually got pretty good amount of people. It was pretty.
Yeah, there was like at least 10 rows probably that were empty.
You only got.
I don't know how many rows. Excuse me. There was people in like the middle section, and then there was people like right below me, like a few rows below me. And that was pretty much, and the guy next to me, and that was pretty much it. I was like, that's disappointing. I think there was a lot more people like that I couldn't see, but it wasn't close to full at all. I
feel like this is DC truly needed this. Like, this movie is.
They truly needed Aquaman, and they got enough.
Aquaman hitting $1 billion doesn't hurt anyone.
They needed Aquaman to do better than any other DCU movie did in terms of people actually reviewing it, because people went and saw that movie and it made the money that it did because people were like, oh, it's a good DCU movie. Yep, I'll go see the DCU movie then. Same thing's going to happen with this one, except it's already been known for a little while now that this movie is going to be good, at least better than most of the other ones.
I hope this movie has legs in it.
I have a feeling it probably won't, though, because people.
Do you think Endgame's going to be a big thing?
I don't think it's going to be that. Well, I do think that will definitely interrupt its legs if it has any, because if it goes that far anyway, I just don't see it being. I see it lasting a little while at the box office, but the problem is going to be stuff like Endgame, and then, let's say Endgame doesn't affect it at all, because people that are seeing DC movies that are also seeing Endgame are going to go see Endgame regardless, right?
No, yeah.
And another thing is, someone that's a general audience member might not have enough money to spend. They just spent money to go see Captain Marvel. They probably didn't see Shazam because they either don't know what it is. Because I don't know how many people told me they thought Shazam was going to be a remake of the Kazam movie from back in the day, where it was like it made no sense. But anyway, but because people, and then like some people knew of Shazam from the cartoons back in the day because he was a part of the Justice League at various points, but I don't know if he was the part of the Justice League, part of DC comic teams at some point.
True.
Yeah, I mean,
I never knew who he was. I saw that it was an upcoming movie probably about a year ago, and then when that first trailer dropped, I was like, "Whoa!" I was instantly hooked. I'm like,
I was a little
I wanna see
disappointed
it now.
about his powers not really fully being there. I'll admit. I mean, I'm sure people will be like, "Oh, wait, this is what he does in the comics." I get it. He's a kid. He doesn't understand everything he can do yet, and that was the thing that I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get. This is the one I did find one complaint just now, and this is it. There was kind of this line thrown out there, like his full potential will be him at his full potential. He will kill you. Essentially, he'll destroy you. That was something that was said to the villain. By the 7 deadly sins. That doesn't really ever pay off, in my opinion.
Maybe it's not meant to just yet. That's.
I think you're right about that, and I think a Shazam Part 2 will fill that hole. But I just feel like in my head I was like, "Oh, is that what's going to be?" Because in my head I didn't. What happens in the end? Don't get me wrong, is awesome, but it does kind of rob the movie. As much as that moment is awesome, it does kind of rob the movie of that conclusion. Because that's pretty decently early on in the movie when that happens. So not paying that off is risky. Although I think it works.
So after they have this whole, they get the whole guy in jail and all this other stuff. Our boy, Dr. Savannah gets meted by Mr. Mind. So where do you think they're going with that? Is that Shazam 2? Is Mr. Mind? And we were kind of talking about this earlier. In 2014, it had broke, Dwayne Johnson playing Black Adam and all this. And where does that
actually break? Was that real? Was that a
No, that was legit. That he was playing Black Adam. And it's like, because originally they wanted him to be in this, and then they're like, "Oh, Black Adam needs his own movie." So, I mean, is that how it ends up? Is there a first? Do we get a Black Adam movie before these guys even touch? Is Mr. Mind kind of your next?
Oh, okay. I know why they're doing this. This is genius storytelling right here. So, Mr. Mind is a part of a group called the Monster Society of Evil, which is significant because it was one of the first supervillain teams in comics to contain villains that a superhero had fought previously. Okay. So this is going to be them trying... Remember how I told you they should just do DC Rebirth and just delete everything, and that would be a good way of explaining it using comics?
Yeah.
They've decided, no, we're going to include the first group, one of the first teams. So I didn't look into the team because I don't want to go into that just yet. We'll do that in a theorization video for Shazam 2 whenever we get around to that, or for future of DCEU or whatever. We'll do something along those lines where we talk about this in further. But if that's the case, they're literally taking things that happened in comic history and applying them to this series. I assume in hopes to reset things in a way that feels natural, that they don't have to. Because as we'll talk about again, we'll get to it eventually. But as we talk about, there was something that was hinted at the end of this movie that could suggest something that I'm sure some people are going to be really unhappy about. I don't even know if you picked up on it based on your response.
No, I actually did. Let's talk. Let's get into that.
You want to talk? So do you know what I'm talking about?
Henry Cavill.
So there was no Henry Cavill in this movie. Apparently, is there no credit for him at all?
Let me double check it now.
I mean, that stuff isn't necessarily always correct on IMDb always anyway. Don't consider that not a good source. It's just before a movie's been out for a little bit. I don't really know. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's before the movie that they get all that information or after.
He does not get any credit.
So, and that makes sense because they didn't show the guy's eyes. So this has led me, and I've actually not seen anybody else saying this because I only watched one review before this because I didn't want to sully my own opinion. This suggests there might be recasting Cavill. That might not have been a rumor.
And that's a shame.
Because the guy honestly could have done so much more with Man of Steel with a different direction and a different tone. Because Superman was never meant to be dark, man. People can say what about Injustice? This isn't Injustice, the DCEU. This is DCEU. This is the DC Cinematic Universe, or Extended Universe, the DC
Extended Universe. Yeah, you got it right.
No, yeah. So whatever. Whatever, yeah. I mean...
So there is a group of Mr. Mind and Dr. Shavana, and Black Adam is a part of that group. So
they
bring him in?
No, yes. I mean, it's not even a joke. How did they bring in Deathstroke? In Justice League, you know what I mean? So if you can do that in the post-credit scene, you can certainly do bringing in Black Adam as the main villain of the next movie, because I'm going to guess that without his eye, that our boy isn't going to be as strong, and he's probably going to be more of the supervillain genius role because he was already pretty smart.
Oh
He's a doctor, you know.
Yeah, let's talk about roles real quick. Now that we're into that, the guy, so our boy Mark Strong here, who played Thaddeus Savannah. Man, that guy. First, he looks like a villain. I'm telling you, villains have a look. You know what I mean? A good badass villain has a look. He hit that look. I thought he was really good. So when we get into some of these other guys, one guy I want to talk about in particular was Eugene when he became, part of the Shazam family, and it was Ross Butler playing him. And I personally am a big fan of Ross. I always thought he had a great look, and B, I always did like him in movies. I thought he's really, so he's in 13 Reasons Why and also Riverdale, and he gets more of a role in 13 Reasons Why, and he's kind of played off as like this dick, but he's kind of goofy. And I was always like, man, you kind of want to hate this guy. Next thing you know, his name starts getting a little bigger, and now he's in Shazam, and he plays Eugene Choi.
So I'm going to go ahead and assume, excuse me, that they hadn't announced that these people were going to be playing the older versions because it wasn't known whether or not they were. Because I'm assuming it wasn't known whether or not this was going to happen. I could have just missed some press releases, but as far as I'm aware, this was never a plan. This was something that completely was the director, who I think's name is Todd Phillips or Tom Phillips, something. No, Tom Phillips is the WWE announcer, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. The guy that directed the
image of him in the goal he wore the gray one, but you could probably I just right away, man. As soon as I saw him, we were with Brady, who also does the Soak Entertainment podcast with us, a Squadcast. I hit him. I'm like, dude. Brady didn't know who he was, but like Rick would, who's another one of our good brothers. You've seen him on the podcast before, and yeah, man. I thought so. They also brought in let's see, it was let me get the name right. Adam Brody. I can't find it right now, of course. Yeah, Adam Brody. He was the guy who played the older version of Freddy, right? The name looked the face looked familiar to me, so then I was doing a little searching, and he was in Mr. and Miss Smith, Jennifer's Body, Scream 4. He's in a TV show called The OC, so it's like I thought I'd noticed the name, and then when I started, I was like, "Huh, interesting." What did you think about the actors and actresses?
I think clearly the standout performance in this is Zachary Levi, who just
I didn't even hit that. Yeah, of course.
Embodies everything that is Shazam and Billy Batson. Like, the thing that I think is amazing, and you could tell that it was kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard the story about how Forrest Gump, how Tom Hanks got his accent. He literally sat with the kid that they got to play young Forrest Gump and tried to match his dictation rather than trying to get the kid to match his. I think they probably did that with Zach Levi and Asher Angel here, because it was hard. I mean, obviously I can tell he's an adult in those scenes, but like, it was kind of hard to tell the difference between when Billy was an adult and Billy was a kid. You know what I mean? Or Billy was Big Billy versus Small Billy, whatever you want to call it, when he was in the suit or not. And something I thought was going to come off really goofy in this movie that didn't. God, everything keeps buzzing every time I do these shows. But like, one was the shouting of Shazam to activate the powers.
Yeah,
it wasn't. I mean, obviously in moments it felt like, oh, this is a little ridiculous, but like the way they incorporated it and the way that Billy's smart enough to realize when to use it properly is really cool. But I think outside of him, I'm trying to find the actress that played the older college-aged chick, because she has a really good performance.
Michelle Borth.
She has a great performance in this, trying to convince us that she is actually like she, to me, is part of the reason why Billy ends up becoming a part of this family and fully accepting them as his family.
Oh wait, so are you talking about when she's Shazam or no? So it was Grace Fulton was the college girl.
Okay.
When she went to Shazam, that was Michelle Borth. My bad.
Right, but anyway, so the college age girl. But anyway, so Grace Fulton, she has a great performance in this movie, because to me, like I said, what ties this movie together is the family aspect. So that was to me one of the big connections to this family, because obviously, the small, I can't remember her name, not Carla, something like that. No, I don't remember the small black girl.
Darla, you were right.
Darla. Oh, okay, Darla. Yeah. Anyway, she's obviously, she can't do that much with because she's got this sort of outgoing personality, and then you have Pedro, is that his name? That doesn't really talk. And
he's kind of the bigger kid. That's me.
Yeah, and then it's like Frankie. Is that the? I should know this kid's name. It's Frank, right?
Frankie. He does have the cane.
Okay. Yeah, that one, and then Eugene. But she is the adult sort of aged, kid that grew up with this family, that understands, that she's got her own life to live, but she doesn't want to abandon this family. And that's what really clicks with Billy, I think, that even though she has things she wants to do in her life, which is obviously when Billy, as soon as he gets these powers, just wants to bail and go be his own person,
Mary Brumfield is the character's name. She actually has her.
Yeah.
Mary Marvel.
Interesting. Okay. Well, they're not technically related, so unless that's not really
that was her first comic in 1945, was Mary Marvel.
I wonder if they end up together at some point. Probably.
They might.
Because his name was Captain Marvel for forever. So, but anyway.
Mary Marvel is the alter ego of teenager Mary Batson, adopted name Mary Brumfield. Oh, in this, she's a twin sister of Billy Batson, so it's a little different.
Oh, I see. So that's an alternate timeline. So they pulled some characters from different timelines, which makes sense anyway, because it doesn't really matter at this point. Everyone in comic books knows it doesn't really matter if they pull exactly the right story from 1962, because the only one that can work with the original story is Captain America. Everything else is just too ridiculous. Even Captain America is the first movie has problems, but this is a DC review. I'm trying to think of other performances that really stood out to me. The kid that plays Frankie is really good in this as well. I believe that he's
off as very likable.
That guy is an actor off The Walking Dead that plays a character called Jerry, and he's great.
Really? I thought he came off as very likable.
That's the kind of character he plays in the other show.
Nice.
Is a likable guy that's kind of like the only thing that he does do in that show, obviously, because it's The Walking Dead, he fights, so he's got fighting, but he doesn't have that in this movie. I don't know. We don't know though. So.
In total, how did you feel about the Shazam family? Like, were you expecting it or no? And no idea
for it to be as good as it was.
Yeah, well, just know like how the family all came together and how they all became.
Yeah. So
I had no idea that was a thing. I mean, I didn't.
So I knew of that as a thing because I'd done brief research into Shazam forever ago, and I talked about how there wasn't just. Most of the time, it's just Billy. A lot of the times, but I think in extreme scenarios is when the Shazam family usually gets called in, like the seven deadly sins being loose. For instance, I'm assuming. Maybe it's something that happens more often in the comics. I'm assuming it's usually in Shazam's solo titles because it's kind of hard to bring your own team of fighters into the Justice League and then be like, yo, well, why is there 4 of you? Why is there 4 others of you? Why do I feel like threatened all of a sudden? Because there's only 5 of us total. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
No, but anyway, jokes aside, I had no idea that's where they were going to go with this because this is one thing I didn't very know. Like I said, I do briefly remember hearing about this. It didn't seem like that much of a shock to me. But when it happens in the movie, the way it's set up, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because it's just such a great through line for this movie. I'm actually gonna look into that really quickly. While just riff for a second.
So I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite things from this movie was it really gives you that feel good vibe. You really get a feel good vibe throughout the movie. You get your dissension between Freddie and Billy, and it really it kind of tugs at your heartstrings because you end up really caring about these guys, and that's something that really helps this movie come across so well. Is you do end up caring about them so much. They really present it to you in a fashion where you want them to succeed, and then at the end when they all become the Shazam family and they end up winning over, kind of really working together and telling Billy like, hey, get the eye, it's all that. There was a scene I kind of wish they didn't do it in trailers because it didn't come off as good, but when he was charging the phones, dude, and the guy goes, the hell? And he throws it because it blows up. It got me pretty good. When he threw the Batman toy at Savannah, that was pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it was actually supposed to be a real Batarang.
No, like I'm talking like the plastic Batman toy. Like it was Batman himself when they were in the mall. And he's like, go get him, Batman. And he threw Batman at him.
I missed that. I must have been paying attention to something else.
It was
I'm gonna be honest with you, Charlie. The comedy missed me a lot of times in this. That's just me. I know everyone else loved this because I've already heard other people talk about the comedy being so good. It didn't land for me every time. I mean, I was just wanting to know if they were gonna even do the movie right. Like I was still worried about this being a good movie. Like every time I see a really good trailer, I get so worried because I've been burned before by movies, Yeah, so it looks like this is the Shazam family. It looks like there's like one character maybe missing. Unless that's supposed to be Billy on the outside also, which would be weird. No, yeah, that's Billy. Never mind. Yeah, they got everyone. Okay, so it looks like when they all say it, they become a hero called Captain Thunder. So cool. This isn't entirely accurate, but that's pretty cool. So it looks like Wonder Woman, Batman, Enchantress, who we have already seen in the DCEU, and Cyborg and the Flash, and Element Woman. Who is this? Oh, okay. Actually, I'll show you this one. This actually looks cool. If they ever could actually do this. Let me bounce in the screen share really quickly.
Action. And then after this, I think it's time to dive into.
Look at the design. I like that. That'd be cool. If we ever could do that.
Oh man, they could really make that look something special.
Because it's a Jeff Johns recreation. So everyone who doesn't know Jeff Johns is the god of Green Lantern, basically. No, I'm kidding. Basically, no, he does good comic books. But anyway, so yeah, I mean that's really cool. They just said, all right, let's just adapt this basically completely and not worry about people not buying into it because we'll just tell the story. And they had faith, Charlie. They had faith in the audience to not just bail on the concept because they develop it so well. And by the time you get to that through line where someone pointed something out in another review, which is like they set up this family story and this sort of villainous, thirst for power, and they're on completely separate timelines, and then they meet right in the middle, and it collides, and it creates this insane movie, And then by the end,
throw the villain out of nowhere. They
grew him within the story. He has development of his character throughout. You see him as a boy where he's scared. By the time you see him when he confronts his father and his brother, which is another really dark scene.
That window, dude, that got me.
Dude, someone gets their head bit off in that scene. Dude, in a PG-13 movie. Straight up, just like, oh.
Dude, Brady and I were just looking at each other laughing. When he threw him out the window, Brady gave the guy the fingers like, hell yeah.
Yeah, that guy, the actor, I don't even know the actor's name that played the brother, but like the older version of the brother gets the subtleties of the anger that the younger one had. Like, again, I feel like they sat together and they're like, how are we going to play this, since we're playing the same character. That's another thing this movie does like 2 or 3 different times. They get like the only actor from that scene that's the actual same actor is the dad who they just make look older. You know what I mean? Like, which is crazy. That whole scene is dark, so dark. And that also sets up, by the way, the finale and how they're going to beat him because it shows his eye without anything in it for the first time. And that's why like it shows him having to get it back when he wants to directly kill his father. But like, yeah. Oh, so any other thoughts before we grade this thing, Charlie?
Honestly, I think it definitely right now in this DCEU, it's my favorite for sure. And I loved it, man. I truly didn't. I really liked Aquaman. If we had done an Aquaman review, we kind of touched on this a little before. Aquaman, it's got some dead parts, and we both kind of agree Black Manta wasn't needed. Like, but yeah, I really like this.
Really quickly, the Black Manta thing, so I can say this on video so people don't just think I'm just hating on Black Manta. Really well done version of the character based on the comic history. The only problem is I wanted Black Manta to get his own movie. Like when I thought Black Manta was going to be in Aquaman, I was like, oh, that's the villain. That's going to be awesome because that's the stories that I like from Aquaman is him fighting Black Manta and how ruthless Black Manta is. You don't really get to see how ruthless Black Manta is. I didn't know that until I looked him up later and I was like, that makes more sense based on what I read. Based on what I've seen in the past of Aquaman being pretty... Because Aquaman is set up to be pretty brutal himself in that movie. Anyway, I'm getting off point here.
No, yeah, you're good. So I was going to pose a question. Okay. So a little over under for you, right? Do you think this movie's it's tracking right now to hit 45 mil this week?
It looks like based on early projections, it could hit 53 as well.
There we go. That's already. So do you think? Okay, just a little over under.
That was the exhibitor relations over under earlier was 53. What?
So over under. Do you think this movie will do 500 million, like in total?
Oh, like total worldwide or total domestically?
Oh, worldwide.
Worldwide easily.
Okay.
I think domestically it may do not as well as maybe some of the other DC movies did. Because even Aquaman is kind of known as like the jokey superhero, like the one that everyone makes fun of, you know. Shazam is an unknown to a lot of people. So yeah. I think it's going to make less. I don't think it's going to cross the billion mark.
Okay, over under 750.
Under. I'm going to say under. I'm going to say it could make 500 if it has legs and if people really do want to see this movie. But that's
I really hope it has legs, man. I really do.
The only problem with me saying that is I'm probably going to be wrong now. But you know,
hey, it's okay. Hey, we're allowed to be wrong.
That's true. So Charlie, I'm going to go to you first, and we're doing it out of 10 again. What do you grade this movie?
Okay. I mean, dude, I think the replay value of this movie is insane. For that aspect, and just how much I enjoyed myself sitting there, I'm going to go a strong 9 out of 10.
All right. Fair enough. When I put out my review and my initial like thoughts and score on Twitter, which I always do, if you want to find that, go to.
I never see that. I never checked that. I don't know why. I didn't see it for Captain Marvel either when we did our review.
Yeah, you're right. But so it's at TMG_demon if you want to see my. Also go to @Pasoki tweets if you want to see ours. But like, yeah, so when I put that out initially, I gave it an 8.9, which is high for me. I think I gave Captain Marvel an 8, and I really liked that movie. And I like this one more. I think, and this is a bold statement, I think I like Shazam more than I like Captain Marvel.
I'd agree. That's Captain Marvel's a great movie. And
that's only because I think I put more hype into Captain Marvel than it got me back, even though it was still awesome. I feel like my hype levels were too high for that. Just solely because I thought it was going to connect more into Endgame, and I was always going to be disappointed. This movie I had so much hype for based on the trailers, and it so delivers.
Absolutely.
And it never delivers too much. So that's why I'm going to amend my score. I'm going to agree with you. It is a 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, guys, we put out this week. We've had a Fantastic Four fantasy casting. We both give 5 people, or we both give 2 people. What am I saying? We both give a person, so it ends up being 2 people. 10.
We cast the whole Fantastic Four. We'll just say it like that.
We're casting all 1,000 X-Men. No. Side note: the 5-minute.
We're casting every background extra in Avengers Endgame. No.
The 5-minute preview of Godzilla was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Godzilla literally looks like a chode.
Whoa.
Take that for what you will. That's not bad though.
Was that supposed to be the Hydra?
But yeah, guys,
the giant snake thing, was that supposed to be the Hydra? It's not a Captain or Shazam thing.
Preview of that too. We literally had a 5-minute preview. It might have been more.
It was long. I think it was just long because the opening of that scene was so long. Like it wants you to be terrified. It just never was. That movie's gonna be dead. I'm sorry.
Brady and I were laughing our asses off when they showed, dude, something about when you see Godzilla and he's got the chode neck and the chode arms, dude. It gets me every time.
I mean, yeah, that movie's gonna be bad.
Yeah, guys. We just did MCU fantasy casting for Fantastic Four. We did X-Men we want to see in the MCU.
Check out our most recent news update where we talk about all the Eternals updates that came out recently.
Yeah, and we got WrestleMania on Sunday and TakeOver tomorrow.
Stay tuned for my live reactions if you're a wrestling fan.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, guys, like and subscribe. Hit the little bell so you know when we go live.
Ding, 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 ding.
And that'll be it for us, man. Hope you guys check out the movie and hope you check us soon.